Gents, with the Super Bowl behind us, it's time to look ahead to the offseason. What are some big moves you guys want to see before the 2026 NFL season kicks off? Wilk.
I mean, I don't know that I want to see this one on a personal level, but I think that the Rams have to make a big play for Maxx Crosby. We saw how close they were to the Super Bowl this year. I mean, looking back, they were probably the only team that stood a chance at knocking off the Seahawks, and had they been a little better equipped to match up with the Seahawks offense in the NFC title game, I think we're probably talking about them as the Super Bowl champions, right? So, a big move for Max would obviously be a departure from where the Rams have been moving recently. It was a few years ago they kind of ditched that whole F them picks thing, and they actually started drafting and developing some stars of their own, and it's worked out great. But I think there's a time and place for everything, and right now when you're closing on the end of Matthew Stafford's career, this might be his last season, and I would imagine it's possible that Davante Adams follows him out the door when that time comes. I don't know how you don't just go all in for a guy like Maxx Crosby, who is an elite pass rusher, but also probably the best run defender in the league, regardless of position. He's under contract for the next 4 years at a really affordable rate, under $30 million a year. Wow. It might take a Micah Parsons type trade to get that done, but I don't really see that as the Rams mortgaging the future because they have 2 first-round picks this year. You could tell me that they could go find 2 impact players with number 12 and 29, but wouldn't you rather just give those 2 picks to Vegas and say, we'll take one of the best defensive players in football and put ourselves over the top? I'd do that if I'm them. I'd also do that if I'm the Raiders, but mostly the Rams.
It's like he's kind of wishing that they give up both those picks for him. I think it makes sense. I mean, for them, I think to improve the roster the most, it'd be to get an impact corner, but I don't think there's a guy like that on the market, so why not take the Packers kind of approach to it like they did with Parsons of secondary, who cares? Let's just rush the passer at a level no one else can, and we'll be just fine.
It's not like Maxx Crosby is like filling up a crazy weakness that the Rams have. It's just the idea is just get an impact player.
Yeah, you're just putting them over the top again. Like such a good run defender. I don't think people talk enough about how you literally cannot run to his side of the field, but also in the same way that we saw with Micah Parsons, you're bringing that kind of guy in. He's going to get his own wins for sure, but all the attention that goes his way, you get one-on-one matchups for Jared Verse, for Braden Fisk, for Kobe Turner. I think it would be huge for the Rams defense.
And, I mean, if they were to get and acquire, arguably one of the game's top 5 defensive players, would that make them the prohibitive favorite to win Super Bowl 61?
They might be the favorite. They might be the favorite even without him.
Yeah. To me, it's just a matter of, are you going to get another fully healthy season from Stafford, and is he not going to drop off when what is he going to be, 38 this year? Or are we not going to get a drop off? I mean, we didn't this year. He was the MVP of the league, so it's looking pretty good, but that can happen at any time. So that's my only pause, but again, they've got to go all in with this kind of move, I think.
T, what's the impactful move you want to see?
I'd like to see, again, just like Dan, I don't think I'd like to see this, but I think from the team perspective, I think this would be a move that they should make. It's Brandon Aiyuk and the Patriots, pennies on the dollar type of acquisition. John Lynch already mentioned 2 weeks ago, this relationship is over. Shocker. I mean, he hasn't played all year and hasn't spoken too highly about the team.
Their questions, you could tell Kyle Shanahan's pissed when people bring it up. He's like, I don't know where the guy's gone.
Yeah. So the Patriots have about $42 million in cap space. They're 11th in the league in cap space heading into the offseason. And they don't have a lot of significant departures. K'Lavon Chaisson and I'm missing Jalen Hawkins are really the only 2 impact players on this roster that are out the door. And I think that where this team needs the most help is on offense. And I would like to see them not be complacent with what they currently have in place because of their success. Are you going to get a 4th-year breakout from Demario Douglas or Kayshon Boutte? I don't think that's likely, and I think that this is a spot on the roster that really could use an influx of talent. And Aiyuk, was coming off of the torn ACL. He didn't play all year this year, but we do know that, well, I shouldn't say we do know, but it's a very good possibility he's extremely healthy at the moment. And 2023 was a season he had over 1,300 yards, was one of the most explosive players at the position. Pairing him with Stephon Diggs as being that outside option, I think makes a ton of sense for a team that defensively feels like they're in a great spot, but offensively could probably use an influx of talent. And what better way to do that than to add a player like this?
Well, here's the thing, T. If they're trading for Brandon Aiyuk, they need to get Stephon Diggs the hell out of there, because I'm not having Stephon Diggs and Brandon Aiyuk in the same locker room for an entire 20-week season, okay? Well, that can't be on the table.
I think, well, you look at the perspective for Brandon Aiyuk. It's a team that went to the Super Bowl. You're getting a coach that has a great reputation of being that player's first guy to be able to build a relationship with. So I think that's a big part of it. And quite frankly, the leverage is all there. they could just release Aiyuk post June 1.
Yeah.
And they're going to soak like a $29 million dead cap charge, whether they cut him or they trade him. So what are they going to get at best for a Brandon Aiyuk? Unless the market's like really competitive, maybe they could get themselves a late pick for him, but otherwise it's probably likely he gets released.
Yeah, I think you'd probably have to beat the Commanders to it, because that's a
wants a
really
reunion.
interesting fit, because Jaden Daniels and the ASU connection, but also the GM Adam Peters loves anyone who used to play on the Niners. But yeah, I like that fit too. I think it makes sense.
It's been 2 years since he was like an impact
Yeah, a year and a half.
player.
He was so good, though.
He was.
I think it makes sense with
1,000
the state of
yards.
this receiver market too, though, because unless you're dropping like $25 million a year on Alec Pierce, which for the record I'm not necessarily against, because I think he could take off in his next spot. I think that taking a swing on a guy like that for what could ultimately be a pretty small price does make sense.
Yeah, and it's funny you say the 49ers thing, because could you see? Remember before the year, you said the Commanders wouldn't be good. They're a little too old. They wouldn't have a great second year. Or could we make that prediction as they get older and add Brandon Aiyuk to go along Stephon Diggs? Like, do we take the risk of getting old like that
For the Patriots?
for the Patriots?
Yeah, I mean, I do still like a lot of the young pieces that they have
Yeah.
there, and I think that the receiving, I think Kyle Williams is going to be a huge part of that receiving core moving forward. But yeah, I don't know that. I don't know that they would bring in both Aiyuk and Diggs.
It's a
it
good
might
point
be
from
one or the
Zach,
other
yeah.
thing from Zach, but yeah.
Zach, what's the move you want to see?
I want to see Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl MVP, go to the Kansas City Chiefs. I need to see some juice on the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not done with that team yet. And from my perspective, it seems like the Chiefs aren't done with that team. There's a lot of people that saying, oh, maybe they're going to rebuild, but there's still some moves they can make. They can cut Jawan Taylor. They can restructure Patrick Mahomes again. They can restructure Chris Jones. And if you're going to have Travis Kelce come back and you're going to have Andy Reid come back, which, let's be honest, it's not long. We're not long for Andy Reid as a head coach in the NFL. He's getting up there in age. So if you're going to try and go for it, Kenneth Walker is the perfect person that you need to go for it, especially when you look at the running backs that Andy Reid has had success with in the past, like a younger Kareem Hunt and Brian Westbrook back in Philadelphia. Like, I think Kenneth Walker really fits that profile really well. If I were them, I would really consider drafting Jeremiah Love with the 9th overall pick, because I love Jeremiah Love. I think he'll be great right away. But if they're not going to do that, I would love to see Kenny Walker on the Kansas City Chiefs, give them an explosive element, and I think that would instantly bring them back in discussion as top of the AFC, especially when it's so weak right now.
I agree. I think whether it's Walker, Love, or even Breece Hall, who's also a free agent, just getting a running back in there, and you're always going to hear people talk down running backs, say it doesn't matter that much, but I really think that this offense has had the foundation for a good running game for a while now. Like, it's been a good run blocking unit. It will continue to be. And I think the hope is that with Eric Bieniemy coming back as offensive coordinator after a year spent with the Rams, maybe they pick up some run game stuff from them and start to emphasize that unit a little bit more, especially under center with Patrick Mahomes coming off the torn ACL. So I think that there's an opportunity for them to make a big splash at running back. They don't have a ton of financial flexibility, but I think they can make room for a running back. And, man, I think that offense would be very tough to stop if you had someone like that.
I think that I know the Chiefs didn't even make the playoffs. They have a top 10. Do they have a top 10 pick?
I think 9th overall.
Number 9.
Yeah, they have a top 10 pick. They didn't even make the playoffs. But I genuinely believe a guy like Kenneth Walker would immediately put them back into an AFC favorite, because I think that's the only missing piece from this team, because defensively they were fantastic. Offensively they were out of rhythm, and I think some of that being that they could not run the football. But like, you still have Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce you mentioned, Xavier Worthy coming off a bad year. Maybe you get the bounce back. But there's a lot of pieces in this offense. They're just missing a run game, and they would be, with Kenneth Walker being like a true number one bell cow in this offense, that would be scary.
Yeah, we were flabbergasted that they didn't trade for Breece Hall at last year's deadline. It's been a glaring need for them for a while. It feels like this marriage makes a whole lot of sense. Wilk, you got another one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to do the Ravens thing again, like I've been doing for the past few years, but I really think that Jesse Minter going there as the head coach gives them a chance to get back on the right track immediately. I think that the defense is going to kind of get back to where it was under Mike McDonald pretty quickly. I mean, he did such a great job with the Chargers, and a lot of that was despite a pretty middling defensive roster. Like, he elevated that group in incredible ways, and being able to do, you got a couple pieces to fill on defense in Baltimore, but I think that group's going to be one of the best in the league right away. So all my focus goes on to how can we set Lamar Jackson up for success, and to me, that's take a big swing on A.J. Brown. I think he's going to come cheap after kind of falling out of favor in Philly. There will be some talk about whether he's washed. I think he's like give me 29.
Crazy to say.
I don't think that's the case at all. I think he can still run. I think he can still physically overwhelm defensive backs. And this is the kind of like physical boundary target that I think could take this offense to another level. It's kind of like the real version of what they were looking for in DeAndre Hopkins last year.
Yeah.
And just kind of like the perfect complement to Zay Flowers. So I would love this pick for them. You know, you reunite him with Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry's already been recruiting him. So it's just such a cool fit for me.
The Eagles would be crazy to do this. I mean, the way that in which they like force-fed A.J. Brown, it felt like he was their entire offense this year. That wasn't very good, but
yeah.
I mean, if anyone doubts A.J. Brown's talent at the moment, you're
Oh,
crazy,
no,
sure.
I do not think anyone should be doing that. But I just think that that relationship might be done. So
Yeah.
I think they might be forced to move on. I think it's probably already in the cards.
And I think that this offense is really missing the type of player that, you know, the way Brown was relied on this year, like Zay Flowers dealt with a lot of drops. Mark Andrews is in the tail end of his career. They're missing. They don't have an alpha. Like I think being
Do you
for
think
Zay Flowers, the number 2 option would be perfect for their offense.
It's a bit of a chicken and egg conversation. Like, do you think that the reason why the Ravens have never had an alpha wide receiver under Lamar Jackson, is it a Ravens issue or is it a Lamar Jackson issue? Like, is there a bit of Lamar Jackson that he can't support having an alpha wide receiver like that?
Well, I mean, the Derrick Henry factor of like how good their run game is too. Maybe it's a deterrent of like there's a feeling that there's not enough volume in the offense, but I mean, Lamar's been a pretty damn good downfield passer the last few years.
Yeah, he's been great. I think they've always been like sniffing around these big receiver upgrades. It's just never quite worked. Like they brought in Odell Beckham that one year, but he was done. You know, they could just draft someone in the first round this year. But to me, knowing that you could get A.J. Brown for, what's it going to be, like a third-round pick, maybe a mid-round pick swap. I don't know what it'll be, but I don't see them getting a first or second-round pick at this point, given the way this last year went. So I think that he could come cheap and then, with that in mind, just be a ridiculous steal.
Yeah.
Wilk, who's the better offense, the Ravens with A.J. Brown or the Chiefs with Kenneth Walker?
I would say the Ravens, because I think that their issues this past year were largely just a result of Lamar being banged up. I think we saw some signs of it once he came back, once he was healthy in the playoffs. There was kind of some signs of like, oh yeah, this is what the Ravens can do. So there's risks that, you know, Derrick Henry's finally going to drop off. I mean, it's going to happen at some point. Maybe not until he's 40 with Derrick Henry, but with the Chiefs, like, I do tend to think that they will have some schematic fixes for what they've been doing in the passing game over the last couple of years, but I got to see it before I believe in that. Like I've been blindly believing in them for years now, and it hasn't happened. So I got to see it first. And again, you've got Patrick Mahomes coming off the injury, so I'm going with the Ravens on that one.
T, another movie you want to see?
This is super bold. I don't know what movie this is from, but like, you know, the whole like, I think it's a meme where it's like, do something, where they're poking the screen. They're like, do something.
Yeah.
It's the Cincinnati Bengals actually improving their roster. I went back and looked at last season, and I don't know how I forgot this, but their most impactful addition of the offseason, not re-signing, was TJ Slate, defensive tackle for the Packers they got for $14 million. They didn't spend $1. They just said, Joe Burrow's back next year. We're going to be just fine. Well, it turned out they weren't in any way, shape, or form. I think this team needs additions defensively at every level. There's plenty of options out there. I know the Bengals are not going to spend like you'd like to see them spend. They're 7th in the league in terms of cap flexibility. They've got $54 million available to spend, so they can spend some money. And this roster is pretty depleted. If you remember dealing Logan Wilson at the deadline, they've just let a lot of guys kind of walk out the door. Obviously, Trey Hendrickson's going to be out the door as well. So they've got a lot of pieces where they probably need to plug in. I look at like I can't imagine Joe Burrow has rave reviews about his time with the Bengals, but like, you know, K'Lavon Chaisson was somebody he played with at LSU. Could there be a reunion there? Is an Alex Anzalone a good fit at linebacker, or a Nakobe Dean at linebacker? Guys who, Nakobe Dean's more of a multiple pass rush, a little bit of coverage, but more of a run defender type of player. And then Greg Newsome, like someone in the secondary that can be multiple in coverage. Newsome's got experience in a lot of man schemes and zone. There's a lot of options. I don't expect them to get the top free agent available at any position, but this team needs to make they need to make a number of additions. I don't think one big-time addition will really change things significantly. So I would like to see them active in the offseason because they do need to prove to Joe Burrow that we're serious about winning. I know I'm not taking the rumors seriously about him being dealt. I don't think that's going to happen this offseason, but I think they do need to prove themselves, and there's an opportunity to do it with how much money they have to potentially spend.
All they need is to be an average defense. And this is a Super Bowl contender. It's not a lot to ask, but they do have work to do to get there. So, yeah, I'm with you. You don't have to make these big splashes, but you do have to make some additions. And, when we get to the draft, that can't be drafting a project defensive end who's going to take multiple years to become the player that you hope he is, right? So maybe if they can add a bunch of players, a couple of guys at each level, and then you get a year 2 breakout from Shamar Stewart, maybe you get that average defense. But yeah, they still got a long way to go.
Yeah, I was thinking the rare you want to add quantity
over
quality.
quality. Zach Taylor's coaching for his job this year, right?
Oh yeah. Well, the thing with it's the Bengals. Like the Bengals love to remember. Marvin Lewis was just like their coach for 20 years, never won a single playoff game. Like they love to keep guys, but it's got to be this is the year for Zach Taylor.
Man, now that you say that, and I say it should be, but the more I think about it, I mean, he played for a Super Bowl within the last 5 years, so I kind of think they just cling on to that and keep him around.
I'll tell you this:
Nick Sirianni won one, and I think he's coaching for his job.
Yeah, but the Eagles and the Bengals are like worlds apart.
Interesting name. You know who the Browns would love to, or the ownership Browns, not the Cleveland Browns, would love to hire as the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, Mike Tomlin. They would love Mike Tomlin. He fits perfectly with the history of that franchise.
Well, those are 5 great ideas. I'd love to see them all come to fruition, but we're having so much fun. Why don't you give us one more idea, Zach?
All right, great. We'll peek behind the curtain. We're putting 5 Bolts off-season predictions. That's just a thumbnail thing.
Yeah, it's a cleaner headline.
This is just we didn't want to put 6 because nobody's going to click on a video with 6.
It better be a good one then.
I wouldn't. Yeah, make it count.
All right. I want to see the Vikings seek redemption for another quarterback. I want to see them seek redemption for Mac Jones, baby. I said this earlier today. This is a Sam Darnold profile, but it also applies to Mac Jones. First round pick, floundering with an AFC East team. They join one of the 1995 expansion teams. In Mac Jones' case, the Jaguars instead of the Panthers. They spend some time in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan, and then they go to Minnesota. So you could just repeat the entire Sam Darnold arc with Mac Jones and have him with Kevin O'Connell. J.J. McCarthy is just... We just know he's not the guy. You've got Justin Jefferson on Media Row talking about he's not the guy. We need to bring in somebody to compete for quarterback. Kevin O'Connell, if you have your quarterback leave and win a Super Bowl, your job is going to be in jeopardy if you don't have that team going right in a couple of years. So you need to bring in somebody that you can actually trust. It's going to, unfortunately, cost like a second-round pick to acquire Mac Jones because of the way that compensatory picks work for him and everything that goes into that. So you're going to have to trade a second-rounder for Mac Jones, but I thought he played great for San Francisco last year. They still have tremendous wide receivers all over that team. The defense can still play really good. I think the Vikings could be a playoff team with Mac Jones as their quarterback next year.
I think if they're moving on from J.J. McCarthy after one season as their starter, they're not doing it for someone like Mac Jones with a pretty limited ceiling, I would say.
I think the problem is that you have to – I'd be fine with signing Mac Jones for like a reasonable cost, but you have to trade for him because he's under contract, right? Like the idea of trading like a day 2 pick for Mac Jones just –
it's scary.
It just doesn't really sit well for me.
But what's the alternative,
The thing is, though, is that this technically does fit into the window they envision because you're not paying Mac Jones significant money.
Yeah.
And they made the offseason additions expecting to cling to the rookie contract and fill out the roster everywhere else. So I could see it making sense to be in their window, just to take advantage of what they felt was their window, as opposed to maybe Aaron Rodgers would do the same thing if they wanted to add him. He probably wouldn't be an expensive deal. But I think the conversation we've got to start to have about the NFL is, well, it's never been a league for developing talent. It's always been you're either ready-made for it or not. But it's even more so now that we've seen it in both college football and college basketball of guys sticking around for that extra year because they know they can make good money in college. That now we're seeing guys like a Tyler Shuck who's like as veteran as they come being a rookie, where there's a short leash for these guys. And J.J. McCarthy could fall victim to that because, like I said, I feel like the Vikings roster-wise feel like they can't wait around for him to figure it out. And Mac Jones would be someone that would potentially be able to make it happen.
Yeah, they're going to add a quarterback for sure.
Yeah.
And I think if it's not Mac Jones, you're either looking Aaron Rodgers, which he obviously wanted to be in Minnesota last year.
Yeah.
Like, that was pretty clear. Or maybe bring back Kirk Cousins.
See, that's
he's
the
going to
thing.
get cut.
The Kirk Cousins thing's just not going to work. So it's like that's just a waste of everybody's time. And ends you up in the same.
I love that. It's just like it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. It's a waste of everyone's time. So you end up in the same position where if Kevin O'Connell is staring down another like 4-13 record at the end of the year, and it's just JJ McCarthy around, it's not going to be a good look for the Minnesota Vikings. Justin Jefferson is going to want out. Those frustrations are mounting. This team actually has to try something right now.
This team is so talented and well coached. There's going to be someone. You're right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go for Derek Carr.
Yeah,
that's an
I
interesting
think
one.
that he's probably
that's an interesting one.
All the buzz around the Super Bowl, he's clearly entertaining the idea of coming out of retirement, and it's not the most spectacular addition, but again, like what we saw from this team last year, where they finished 8-9, despite everything we had with JJ McCarthy and the other quarterbacks they were playing.
Yeah.
I don't know if Carr can give you like something around league average play. That's kind of what you're looking for.
And that way you don't have to give up a second round pick.
We should have had this flipped around. Derek Carr should have been the opener to this video.
No, I mean, we're all thinking it. Phillip Rivers.
Put up some numbers on that Super Bowl winning defense.
And the video, that's it.
Yeah.